All right, welcome back to the Gridiron with Chance Aspen. Before this video starts, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Now, enjoy this video. All right, here we are for my 5 thoughts from Super Bowl 59 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's get started. Thought number 1. The Philadelphia Eagles defensive line was dominant from start to finish. They really were. I was shocked with how dominant they were. Now, I knew going into the game that was the biggest mismatch between the Chiefs offensive line and the Eagles defensive line. And if the Eagles would dominate that matchup, the Eagles were going to have a great chance to win. But I did not think they were going to be able to dominate like that, getting 6 sacks on Mahomes. And I think even the more impressive thing, they didn't have to blitz once. That's what worried me about this game, is when Vic Fangio was on the Miami Dolphins last year, they played the Chiefs in the playoffs, and he kept having to blitz Mahomes, and Mahomes picked him apart all game long. This game, in the Super Bowl, he didn't have to do that. He would get home with a 4-man rush all night long, and that's really what won the game. Because if he would have had to have blitzed, Mahomes would have picked it apart. He just would have. But without having to blitz, you can drop everybody else back into coverage, get pressure with 4, and Mahomes is rattled. And that's what happened. Their 4-man rush dominated that football game. Josh Sweat, who had 2.5 sacks. Jalen Carter, I don't think he had a sack, but he was dominant. Nolan Smith, dominant. Jordan Davis, dominant. Milton Williams, dominant. These defensive linemen were absolutely dominant against the Chiefs O-linemen. And they made Patrick Mahomes look human, if I can be honest. He looked rattled. He looked human in a way we just have not seen him play. Credit to the defensive line. The defensive line was the Super Bowl MVP because they dominated that game in ways I don't think I've seen a defensive line in a Super Bowl dominate a game. Thought number 2. Jalen Hurts proved that even if his running game isn't going, he can still perform at the highest level. I talked about this in my preview. They're going to shut down Saquon Barkley, and they're going to make Jalen Hurts beat them. And that's exactly what he did. I thought he threw the ball fantastic. He found A.J. Brown. He found Devontae Smith for a deep touchdown. He found Dallas Goedert. He found Saquon Barkley in the passing game. Jalen Hurts played his best game I think I've ever seen him play, because he did it on the highest stage when the pressure was on. I said it. It was him versus that secondary. That was another big matchup in this game. Jalen Hurts against the Chiefs secondary. Who is going to win that matchup? And it was Jalen Hurts time and time again. Jalen Hurts dominated that game with his arm. I did have some questions whether or not Jalen Hurts could throw the ball a lot and be successful. Because earlier on in the playoffs, against the Packers, against the Rams, he struggled to throw the football. It really didn't turn around until the NFC Championship game against Washington and this game against the Chiefs that he finally started to throw the football at a high level. And that worried me a little bit. I was like, they're going to stop Saquon. This is going to come down to Jalen Hurts. And he proved that he could do it. That he could throw the ball when the pressure was on. That he could throw the ball when his running game was getting stopped all night long. Because it's easy to throw the ball when your running game's flying left and right and Saquon's going nuts for 150 yards. But it's hard when Saquon's getting shut down, then you got to throw the ball. And that's what Jalen Hurts did. He threw the ball when their running game was not going like it had the whole year. Thought number 3. Patrick Mahomes played the worst game of his career. He did. The next worst was, I think, his Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that one felt like the other guys around him let him down. This one felt like he got really rattled by the rush because they were just getting pressure with 4. They weren't doing anything crazy. And I think that almost startled him. I think that almost confused him that only 4 guys were getting there. But they're playing basic coverage. They're not doing anything tricky. They're just playing regular defense and dominating them. And I don't think he's ever experienced that before, where everything is basic, but they're just getting dominated. That's never really happened to Mahomes. And I thought he was awful. I thought he let the rush get to him. How could you not? But also, you're supposed to be the best player in the world. That shouldn't get to you. Both of his interceptions were bad. Now, the one I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt. Joe Tooney was in his lap by Josh Sweat, so it was kind of an errant throw because of that. But the first one at Cooper DeJean was just a terrible decision. He didn't need to make that decision. It was a bad play by Mahomes. That was the worst game I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes play. He looked uncomfortable, looked terrible, was off from pretty much the start. I think he had a third down pass to Kelsey that was just completely behind him. And that was like the first series of the game. He just looked off from the start. He was not accurate. Before the rush even got there, he was not throwing the ball with accuracy, with anticipation, making the classic Mahomes plays that we've seen so many times. He just was not making those types of plays. Thought number 4. Can the Eagles win multiple championships after winning this one? I think that's been the big question since they won Super Bowl 59. Can this become a dynasty? Can this become almost the new Chiefs? I think it can. Now, I do have some questions, but if you just look at their roster, and I've talked about this all year, their roster is absolutely loaded, and what even helps them even more is all of these guys, most of their top players, especially on defense, are on rookie deals. Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith. All of these guys are on rookie contracts. So you're not going to have to pay these guys for 2 or 3 more years. And you can build this thing to win multiple championships because you have all these players on rookie deals. And then when you have to play those guys, Jalen Hurts' cap hit doesn't hit as hard. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Those guys' cap hits aren't going to hit as hard anymore. So I think this can become something. Now, who knows? We'll see next year. It's hard to get back to the Super Bowl after you've already won one. It's hard to win the Super Bowl back-to-back. It's hard to build dynasties. We just haven't seen a lot in the Super Bowl. We haven't seen a lot in NFL history. So I'm not just going to say, oh yeah, they're 100% going to be a dynasty. We don't know. But I think they could be because of how loaded their roster is and because of how many guys they have on rookie deals. My 5th and final thought from Super Bowl 59. Here it is, thought number 5. Simply, the Chiefs got out-coached. And it rarely happens to Andy Reid that he gets out-coached. But he did. He didn't adjust. You knew Mahomes was getting rattled. You knew the 4-man rush was getting there quick. You can't run these long developing plays. They had to shorten the routes up. They had to run the football, which they did not do at all. Running the ball, shorten the routes, they did none of that. And I thought that was not a great look on Andy Reid. As great as Andy Reid is, I know Bill Belichick probably would have made adjustments, and that's the guy he's compared to is Bill Belichick. And Andy just did not make those adjustments that I thought he should have. I love Andy Reid. He's the best coach in the NFL. But if you're going to be the best coach in the NFL, you got to make those adjustments. That's on you to make those adjustments at halftime, in the middle of the game. You see your quarterback is getting rattled. You see the rush is getting home. You see the rush is affecting him. You see his feet are starting to get a little bit happy in the pocket. Shorten the routes up. Give him easy completions. Run the football. Like, they didn't run the ball really ever. They barely ran the ball. And Kareem Hunt was playing well for them. Pacheco wasn't great since he's come back from injury, but he was okay. There's just certain things that I thought Andy Reid could have done. Now, look, they lost 40-22. It was a domination. The Eagles were probably going to win anyway. But I thought he could have made the game at least interesting if he made some of those adjustments that he just didn't make. That no offense to Andy Reid, great coaches are supposed to make those adjustments. If you're going to be known as one of the greatest coaches ever, you got to find a way to make some sort of adjustment to turn the tide one way or another. But that's my 5 thoughts from Super Bowl 59. Hopefully you enjoyed my 5 NFL thoughts. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and have an awesome day.